We're all set.
Hello and welcome to the first episode for the Heart of Oneness Holistic Network channel. My name is K&A, co-founder of the Heart of Oneness Holistic Expo, and I am joined with fellow co-host Matt Riley, who also happens to be my beloved partner and soulmate. The purpose and intention of this channel is to connect hearts far and wide and offer up a container of spiritual enlightenment that supports you on your path of self-discovery and awareness. Today, we are so excited to welcome Deb Schaffer, owner, founder, and creator of Enchanted Botanicals located in Virginia. Deb is a spiritual herbalist, Reiki master teacher, energy intuitive, and author. Her meditation candles, incense, botanical skincare, spiritual and magical tools are truly enchanted and are infused with so much love. As Deb says, every product she creates begins with an idea, an intention, and has a spiritual purpose. She works with the energetic, spiritual, and magical properties of herbs, flowers, crystals, and essential oils. Deb, one of the first things that, someone will notice when they visit your website is just how beautifully welcoming it is and inviting, which really really invites the person that's visiting your site to stay and enjoy some time and take in all that beautiful inspiration. So if you can share with us just a little bit how Enchanted Botanicals came to be and how it kind of all got started.
Sure. I will try to condense it because it could take all afternoon. But in a nutshell, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive breast cancer almost 15 years ago. And our son was 13. His first day, literally first day of 8th grade, was the day of my first surgery. And my oncologist at that time had given me 2 years. And I said, this is not acceptable to me. I don't accept this this prognosis. And so I literally spoke with God and I said, it's not so much about me, but I was not ready for my son to be motherless. That's what really drove this conversation. So I literally worked a deal. And I said, you give me the time and I will do what you need me to do in this world. I will be your hands. And so I had been an interior designer for a little over 20 years at that point. And these different modalities started popping into my world. Mm-hmm. So I studied feng shui, became a feng shui master. I studied with a couple of gentlemen in the UK where I learned how to work with land energies, energy lines, what some people call ley lines, geopathic stress, how people living on the earth can be impacted by naturally occurring energies within the earth. And so now I have incorporated that into my practice. And so at the time that I was doing that, I was looking for some tools to go deeper into meditation, to facilitate that process, to dive deeper into really working with the earth energies, with the guardians of the land, and looked on the internet. I couldn't find anything that resonated with me. It was either, and I don't mean to knock any other product. I'm talking about me personally. Right. They either weren't powerful enough for what I was trying to do. They didn't feel clear or pure enough. The vibe wasn't matching with what, at this point, the divine was directing me to do. Mm-hmm. And so I was sitting out in our we have a little clearing in the woods where I do a lot of work. And the voice came in, as it so often does, and it says, girl, you've got these gardens, use them. And so I went out and I picked things and I dried them and I created my first incense. And from there, I created a candle. And from those two things, it just kind of grew, and literally grew. And so, yeah, here I am about, 15 years past my expiration date, doing what I hope is good work.
Wow. That's incredible, Deb. Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And it's so incredible to kind of see how your life kind of took you to that point where
Mm-hmm.
you really had a decision to make, and having that conversation with God,
Right.
and making and setting that intention and taking that small action, right, of creating your
Right.
first
Right.
incense. It just grew so exponentially. I
Right.
love it.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting when you think from complete surrender,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could count the days that the oncology people were giving me. And from that point, when I said, I don't accept this, let's
That
do
was so
something
powerful.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
And let me be those hands that you cannot physically be here.
Mhm.
And so my formulas for my candles, for my incense, for my skincare, even for my balms and salves, are divinely divined. They are
Wow.
channeled. So I sit down with my spiritual team, my angels, my guides. If I'm working on an incense, maybe I work with my fairy guides. And when I say fairy guides, I'm not talking about the Tinkerbell style
Oh,
people.
yeah, I know.
I'm talking like the genus loci, the spirit of place,
Yes.
the spirit of each individual plant. So just like people, each plant has, I believe, has a soul. They may not communicate in the same way that humans do, but they communicate. And so that's how I get my formulas. So I sit down and I have, close to about 200 different herbs and flowers, and then add in the crystals, add in essential oils, and together we sit down and we go through this list. And I purposely try not to memorize what the as you already mentioned, I work with the spiritual and energetic and magical properties. I do have a medical herbalism background now, which was one of the things I was guided to do.
That's actually one of the questions I think
Yeah.
Oh,
Matt had
okay.
for you.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm skipping ahead.
No,
So,
we
That's
love
good.
it. We
That's
love
but I
great.
it.
thought that would be that. I mean, I'm a total Virgo, so I must be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So, to
Stand
me,
ready to well.
that was a good first step.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I was saying, I try not to memorize what those properties are that I'm working with, so that I don't preconceive what the divine formula is going to be. So, but as I'm pulling those jars, and I wish I had a jar here, but in my apothecary cupboards, I've got the jars of herbs and flowers and resins and whatever. And I've got a real pretty label that says use for attracting wealth, for ridding bad spirits, for love, for divination, for increasing psychic powers. So it's so like amazingly cool when I actually start creating, physically creating the formula from what's been channeled to me, to see like, are you kidding me? Really? Because it is spot on. And I think, okay, I am just living the dream here.
Can it be this easy, right?
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently it is. You just have to go through like, experimental chemo and 7 weeks of radiation. And all kinds of surgeries later, and you too can do this.
Wow. It's fascinating too, because I read a book about 2 months ago, and it was that base of what you did. It was that desire and that total knowing that I will be okay. And
Mhm.
you basically changed your whole body by
I
that
did.
100% desire that I will be all right. And you just changed the chemistry in your body to heal yourself.
Yes,
That's really what
because
it came down to.
yep, I did not accept that. So I got
So
myself
powerful.
into a clinical trial for the chemo, which is now protocol for the type of breast cancer that I had. So I feel like that was another God thing.
Mhm.
And my radiation oncologist, in his practice, offered Reiki and guided meditation and all of these alternative therapies
Wow.
to be used in conjunction with traditional Western therapies. So
Wow.
again, I mean, good grief.
Yeah,
It,
that's
I
it
was
fascinating. That
just
many
really
years
is.
ago
putting
too.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, he was just putting these things in front of me. And as long as I didn't say no,
Hmm.
they just kept being presented.
Yeah.
But that was part of my agreement that I would not say no.
Yeah.
And not everything was easy. I mean,
Mm.
gosh, I mean, who wants to go through all of that nonsense?
No.
But I felt so blessed that, first of all, that it happened, because I might not have been here, or maybe I wouldn't have been here this quickly,
Hmm.
um, or as, I mean, it was just such a pure progression,
Hmm.
um, from where I started to where I am now. And every day I'm so grateful to be doing what I'm doing, because I love it.
And it shows so
Yeah.
beautifully in
Oh,
everything
Yeah.
thank
you
you.
do, Deb. It really
Thanks.
does.
That's fascinating. So a doctor 15 years ago with that openness is, I mean, such divine
Hmm.
guidance. Nowadays it's more commonplace, but 15 years ago it was almost
No,
radical.
it was. It was. And it's so funny. His name is Dr. Ow.
Dr. Al?
Ow.
Oh,
Like, ow.
Oh, wow.
I
Oh,
know. I just
my
thought that
gosh.
was another funny thing. So,
Oh, my goodness. That's hysterical.
mm,
yeah.
It's wonderful. Wow, very, very inspiring. So I guess the next thing really that I kind of feel upon my heart, and that I think we talked about it too, has a little bit to do with herbalism. So I
Hmm.
know, a lot of people, when they see your brands and they see your offerings and your products, they kind of get an idea of what maybe herbalism is.
Hmm.
So I don't know. And also Matt brought up a beautiful point of, like, some people may have some misconceptions about what it is. So if you could kind of maybe just clear up for some of our viewers, like, what
Sure.
it is, what it isn't, how they can use it in their everyday life.
Right. Well, and I want to say that although I do have a certificate in herbalism, medical herbalism, the US is a little different. Well, I'd say it's a lot different than the UK, from the European states, where you can actually get certified to be a medical
okay.
herbalist. Right now in the US, we can get a certificate
Oh wow.
which says we've gone through this program, but there's no licensure.
Oh,
Um,
Oh,
so a
wow.
lot
That's a
of
big
people,
difference.
yes, so a lot of people will incorporate it into other licensure programs like naturopathy or
mhm.
acupuncture, things like that. So us poor little herbalists, we're sort of the stepsisters of the UK and
Wow.
the EU. Um,
Interesting.
but what herbalism is studying what are the properties of each plant, each herb, that that harmonize with different bodily systems. And there's a really cool system, school of thought. It's called the Doctrine of Signatures, and it dates way back,
Hmm.
perhaps to like medieval. And what that says is that you look at a plant's physical properties. Does the leaf have veins? Um, if it had red veins running through it, you might be able to use that as a circulatory herb. There
Oh,
are
wow.
there are plants that are where the leaves might be shaped like lungs. Lungwort. So lungwort would have been used for, say, coughs or and again, I am not giving medical advice here, but
Mhm.
I'm saying how
Yeah.
it's historically, traditionally passed down. How does it look,
Mhm.
and how that might be applied to human health as an organization. So that's what we look at. And so when I studied herbalism, it was a lot of, well, we looked at each individual bodily system, like circulatory, pulmonary, cardio, neuro, digestive, and what are the herbs that have been shown to be efficient, efficacious for those bodily systems. And, in all honesty, it got to be a little scary for me to start taking responsibility for someone's physical health in that way.
Sure.
There are people who do it with much more wisdom, with much more passion than I do. But that's, in a nutshell, what herbalism is using the gift of the plants, their specific medicine. So physical medicine, and a lot of times in spirituality, we talk about medicine, which is, in general, the healing properties, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual properties offered
Mhm.
by an herb, by a crystal, by a location. Locations are sacred, and we can gain a lot of medicine by visiting, meditating, connecting with those sacred places. So that's kind of how I started. And when I realized that my passion was not to use all of the herbs in my apothecary in a physical healing way, although I do have a good number of products at this point which can be used in that way, in addition to
Exactly.
spirituals. But when I realized that I was on a more spiritual path with these, like I was actually communicating
Right.
with the herbs
Right.
and the flowers, that's when I realized, wait a minute, there's something more to
Right.
this.
Yeah.
And so it was an easy transition for me from medical herbalism to spiritual herbalism.
I love it. I love
But
it.
but to go to your question, when people do look at the website and they might see herbalism and they see, plants all over the place, I do have a background like Lily of the Valley. Now you'll see my little logo.
Yeah, we have
Is
it
a
up.
beautiful plant. To me, she speaks all about the tradition um, of knowledge, of wisdom, of love being passed down through the female lineage. My great grandmother had them in her garden, which became my grandmother's garden, which then, my mom inherited that house, and now my sister and I take care of it. So
Wow,
it's
that's
it's
so
like this
beautiful.
strong female, divine feminine area. Um,
Absolutely.
on the other hand, Lily of the Valley is also toxic. So, it's good to know the duality of the plants. And you can think of Rose. Rose is another great example. She's beautiful. She represents love, when people give roses as expressions of love, but she can be a badass bitch,
Oh, yes, she can. Be
She's got those
careful.
thorns. She can be protective,
Yes.
not only of herself, but of others.
Yes.
She can help set boundaries. So once I was opened up to that aspect of the plants, I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is where I want to be diving into. And so I'm glad that I've got the other background, because it does help me when I'm formulating like my garden salve and the wound salve and things like that. But I'll tell you an interesting story about my little light warrior salve.
Ah,
So this is based on the peony flower. And
which
I
happens
get
to be one of my favorites. Oh my goodness.
okay,
Do
so
tell.
you're going to love this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get a lot of inspiration, and the word inspiration or inspire comes from the root words, which mean to be in spirit. So when we are inspired, we are literally in communication with spirit. We are connecting, we are in spirit.
I
So
love that.
I get a lot of my inspiration when I'm walking or just, doing other stuff. Rarely do I sit down and, meditate. I just don't have time, but I can be meditating while I'm, doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to center and, ground yourself. So I do that by walking. And so I'm thinking about all of these peonies that are in my garden, and I've got over 3 dozen of them. And again, they have all been handed down through my female ancestors.
Wow. That's
And
powerful.
I mean, I have gone so far as to write into sales contracts for houses that they don't convey, and I will be back. Look them up, and I've done it. Um, so anyway, I was thinking about what am I going to do with all of these
Wow.
peony blossoms? I mean, it seems a shame just to let them wither and drop off and become fertilizer, which is a good thing. But so, the voice came in and said, make a balm. And I'm like, okay, but like what? What are you going to do with this? So, good old Virgo, I dash home and get on Google and find out that peony is named after the Greek physician Paeon. And Paeon would go to the battlefields with the Greek gods and warriors. And when they fell in battle, he would hustle himself onto the battlefield and heal them. So it occurred to me, peony is a its spirit is to heal the warrior spirit.
Mm,
So now it's called my light warrior
I
peony
love
balm.
it. I love it.
And so it's for those of us who find ourselves in situations, as empaths, as spiritual path people, we often dive into situations before we fully think about it or before we protect ourselves, because that's not our nature. Our
Mm-hmm.
nature is just to do, to
Exactly.
hop in there. We see something that needs our help, our light, and we're in it. And then it's over and we're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? How do I recover from that?
Right.
And that's the knowledge that was given to me,
That's
is that peony is a way for us light warriors to heal those spiritual wounds. So it's a wonderful thing to put on the heart chakra. Some of us feel like we take a wound in the back. So a lot of people will use it at the small of their back or the back of their neck, wherever people are felt guided to heal those things. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. I don't know if I answered the question. I
Oh,
probably
yes, you
didn't,
did.
but
Yep.
I'll be going some.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how that all kind of just flowed together. And, it's incredible to kind of just see how you really began to move into that very expanded
Mhm.
state of communicating with each individual plant's intelligence,
Yes,
if you will,
yes,
that
yes.
just not
Mhm.
only expands yours, but it allows
Mhm.
all this beautiful medicine to come out into the world.
Right,
It's so
right.
powerful and beautiful just to hear you talk about it
Oh, thank
and
you.
share your love of it, because it just comes through so beautifully.
Well,
So
I feel like I've been given I can't even say it's a job. I'm not sure what the right word would, a mission, maybe?
yeah, you're
My
like an
mission,
ambassador, an
yeah,
emissary to offer this work.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
An emissary, that's perfect because I'll take that divine knowledge and create with it and then pass that product on. So I don't really consider, how would I explain my products? Some people use them for magic, some people
Mhm.
use them for spiritual healing, um, and they're good for all of those things. But I really believe that our personal magic is most effective when we feel confident, when we feel strong,
Mhm.
when we feel pure and cleared. And, you can use tools or no tools. I
Mhm.
mean, I've got a sweet little cauldron that I love to burn stuff in. Um,
So do I.
but you
Yes,
don't need to, you
Mhm.
know?
absolutely.
And like I'll
Love
tell
that you said
people,
that.
Yeah.
what is a spell? People will say, well, what is a spell? And my answer is it's prayer with props.
I
So,
love it.
right?
Mhm.
I
Because
love it.
the intent is the same. The
Exactly the same.
result hopefully will be the same if your prayer is pure, if your actions are pure, if your intention is pure. That's when you get results.
Mhm.
And that's what I hope that my products
Mhm.
do, that they help people get to that state of being a clear, pure channel for
Mhm.
their divine connection, their communication.
That's the essence of
So
who you are. That's how you live your life. So that's why it's all being channeled through you, because that you live your life as a pure channel based on your
I
history. That's what your
I
desire
try.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I try.
It really
Yep.
shows, Deb. Yeah.
Thank
And,
you.
Matt
Thanks.
and I mean, we haven't known each other very long. I mean, we met, what, in 2019?
At your
And,
first expo.
Mhm.
yeah, right,
hmm
for the first time. And, there are just some people that you meet and you just kind of feel that extra little special pull towards, and we've talked about it. I could feel your heart. I could feel your essence in everything that you do. You own every bit and piece, and not knowing like the full scope of your story that kind of brought you into offering and sharing with everyone what you do with Enchanted Botanicals just means that much more to us.
Mhm.
I don't want to
Ooh,
speak for
now I'm
you,
getting a
Matt,
little
but it's
teary.
it's so beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's
Thank you.
so
Gosh,
we're grateful to have you here today, sharing all
thanks.
of that with us. Um,
Thank you.
I did have, something that I think Matt and I were both kind of curious about
Uh-huh.
was geomancy. I
hmm
think, to kind of understand a little bit about how that works. And I think I sort of have an understanding of what it is, but I'd
hmm
love for you to just clarify that a little.
Okay, so geomancy, again, you could go back to the roots of the words. Geo meaning earth-based, mancy, divination, right? So what I do with my geomantic practice, and I call it energy alchemy, is I dive into what's happening with the earth energy where someone lives. And most of my work is remote because what I'll do is I go onto Google, I download their
Right.
address, their land area,
Okay.
and generally people will fill out. I sent them a questionnaire which talks about, what are you feeling? Are there new issues that you're experiencing? Because if we are out of sync with our personal energy with the land that we live on, then we can start feeling not only out of balance emotionally and mentally, spiritually, but physically as well. We can start having headaches. We can start, in energy medicine, we talk about an imbalance that's not treated becomes dis-ease.
Yes.
Still untreated, it becomes disease. So I like to catch these things when it's still an imbalance. So what I do then is I take the map that I've printed off, and I use a pendulum, and I tap into that piece of land, and I will plot out where the energy lines, and in the US we call them energy lines. Technically, a ley line will connect holy or sacred sites. Like you'll probably have heard of the Michael and Mary line that runs through like the southern part of England.
No, I don't think so.
That's a true ley line,
Right.
because it connects about 50 sacred sites. A lot of them began as pagan sites, and when the church came in, they built cathedrals or churches or shrines on top of these pagan sites, with the larger objective being that in 2 or 3 generations, people would have forgotten why they originally went to that holy well or to that pile of rocks. They'll now be going there because it's a Catholic church or a Lutheran church or whatever it was, Anglican. It's still the same site. It's still the same sacred energy. So there are about 50 sites along that particular line. Interestingly, that line crosses over
That is so interesting. I'm
I
sorry.
know, isn't it?
That is just
So, like,
so
you think about
fascinating.
Stonehenge, you think about how many cathedrals are called the Church of St. Michael, the Archangel, the Holy Mary Well, towns that are named after Michael and Mary that all began as pagan sacred sites. So that line crosses the Atlantic, comes in through Boston, down through New York, through Philly, through Baltimore, through DC, which is where I am, that area, and on down to Atlanta. That's a true ley line. Energy lines are a little bit different in that they don't necessarily connect sacred sites. So if you think of, do you know there's old fishing balls? Remember back in the day, there were these glass fishing floats, and they would be covered in net.
I want to say I
Vaguely.
think so.
Okay, well, so
Yeah.
so just imagine that the earth is covered with a very fine, intricate net. And each one of those lines represents energy flowing around the earth without starting, without stopping. And at certain points, they intersect. So where they intersect, they will often create what some people will call a vortex. They're basically chakras. If you think that the human body has over 88,000 chakras, and we are a microcosm of what the earth is. So think of how many chakras there are in the earth. Some are spinning, just lovely, and others not so much. And so those are the ones that I like to dive into. My personal research and communication with the genus loci, which is spirit of place, in the energy lines that I work with, is that when we suffer, say, a humanitarian crisis, I go back to when the Syrian camps, the refugee camps first opened, or when there's been a natural disaster and you've got a lot of human suffering.
Right.
Where do those emotions go? We all know energy can't be created and it can't be destroyed. I mean, I guess unless you've got some huge, nuclear thing, but not all of us have a personal nuclear device.
Right.
So we create this energy through anger, through sadness, through disappointment, through whatever, illness. Where does it go? So my theory is that the earth accepts it through these lines. And as energy is moving continuously through these lines around the earth, it's picking up these things and maybe dropping them off. So one day I'm going to figure out a program that can help me track where these significant events happen around the world, and can they be tracked?
Yeah.
Can they be linked?
Forecasted. Yeah. Can it be forecasted out so you can know what's going to
Yes.
happen before it happens?
Yes, you're living on a line that unless you hire this gal to come in and clear it, look out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding there. But when I work with my clients, it's on a much smaller
Right.
basis. So what I dive into, first I map out where are the energy lines that crisscross your property. Are they, and what I look at is three things. Are they detrimental to, to the husband? Are they detrimental to the wife? So I look at everybody, to all of the animals that are in that household. Is the energy detrimental, neutral, or beneficial? And once I've determined that, I dive in and go through a process where I will clear it. I'll clear that line through all time and space. So no matter where it travels next through your property, it's not going to dump the junk so that, your neighbor's going to pick it up. But it's fascinating to go back and say, well, here, and to talk with people and show them where the energy line was flowing from. And they'll say, oh my gosh, well, my neighbor down the road, this big, well, for example, I worked with a client in Florida. I did some land clearing there. There were so many layers of what was happening, like back to the original native tribes being in conflict with each other. There were curses involved, ancient curses involved, up to present day where there was a fatal car accident right outside of their driveway. And these layers of energy built up and built up, affecting each subsequent era or generation. And to clear that takes a lot of
Yeah, I
time.
know you. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's necessary work. And so that was what I was really studying and working with intently when Enchanted Botanicals products came about. So the products were what were supposed to help me, and do help me when I'm doing this work, to not only strengthen my abilities, but to work with the people who are living above this sort of erratic energy that they're not particularly in balance with. And the results are amazing. I mean, I've worked with people who've had fertility issues, who've had marital issues, who've had, you name it, just feeling uncomfortable. Like one of the things that I work with, I love working with children because they're so open. And several months ago, I worked on a house where the people couldn't sell it. Beautiful house. There was no reason it wasn't being sold. Their neighbors would put their houses up, within a week. They were all selling, and theirs had been on the market for months. And so I went in and I did a routine space clearing. I hate to call it routine, but
no.
but you know what I mean. Like, we did a space clearing, and it turns out that, around here in Virginia where we live, there are a lot of battlefields, Revolutionary Civil War especially. And there was a gentleman who was lost. He didn't know what his time and space was. And he kept walking through their youngest daughter's bedroom. And she could see him. The mom could feel him. I mean, she knew something was up. So we talked about how to set boundaries, energetic boundaries. And I mean, we are allowed to say things like, if you need to be in my house, here's what you may not do. You may not appear. You may not touch me. You may not move things.
Right.
Other than that, we're cool.
Right.
The next week they sold their house.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, again, it's, I feel like I'm so blessed that I get to work with these miraculous energy modalities, and they all kind of blend together. And I mean, how lucky am I?
Yeah, it's incredibly inspiring and beautiful to kind of just hear and see what has emerged simply through your willingness to
Yeah.
just be a
Just say,
cooperative
bring it
component
on.
to all of it. Right.
On.
Yeah, exactly. I
I'll
love
do it. I'm desperate.
I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
Matt, do you have anything that you want to bring
I
to
think that
Deb?
that geomancy is fascinating. I
really
want to
is.
talk more about it. It's mathematical to your point, but once you understand the root cause of what's going on, it frees a lot of people. And that's what's
Yes.
beautiful about it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
really what it's all about too.
Yes.
It's
So
feeling that freedom.
maybe to take your advice, Matt, maybe I'll develop a
Teach.
class.
Yeah.
Like I said,
I will sign up, Deb. I will sign up.
Like I
It
said,
is.
I'm a Virgo
It's
like you.
fascinating.
I'm a Virgo's Virgo. August 28th, birthday.
29th.
There we go. And I'm a Virgo's Virgo, very analytical. I like to be prepared. I don't like to be caught off
Perfectionist.
guard. Yep, it's got to be very.
Details.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And K and I are the total opposite. K and A is totally creative.
Are you a Gemini? My husband's.
I'm actually a Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
She went, oh.
No, my mom was too, so I get it.
Yeah, total fire sign.
Yeah, I'm extremely analytical, detailed, just very. I love that world. That's what you said about the geomancy. I'm like, this is fascinating to me because it's mathematical in nature because it's predictable. And then, but it's also in the same time very spiritual because you're freeing
that's how you
people
do
of
the
these.
clearing.
Yeah, you're freeing people of these bondage that they have that they don't know what's causing it, and you're giving them information that they're requiring and they're needing. It's
well, to go back to geomancy just for a second. Remember, well, in our area, there still are people who are called water witches, and when we're looking for wells, the water witches. Back in the old day, they would take a piece of willow was the traditional.
Yeah.
So you get a piece of Y-shaped willow.
My aunt used to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and so you hold on to the two ends.
Yep.
And the singular point, the end of it will move up and down. Like you set your intention. I'm looking for water. I'm looking for water. And I've done this.
Yeah.
Again, I use a pendulum, but tradition is to use a willow switch. So that's a form of geomancy is searching for water, a dowser. If you do any kind of dowsing work, which again can be done with a pendulum by you can douse with your body. You know that kinesiology, I think it's called, muscle testing.
Muscle testing, yeah.
You can use the brass L rods. I have a pair of those. Pendulums, so many different ways to douse. And the word dowsing it really just means how you're looking for information, using a connection to source. It's your higher self indicating to you through these tools the answer that you're looking for. So you could be looking for something physical like water. You could be looking for an answer to a question. All sorts of ways to do divination, and so once you've become adept at that, diving into geomancy is fun.
Oh, wow.
It's important work. We have a lot of land to be clearing, of a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
very much like us. Like, it's just, I love how you were just really able to let all of the viewers know that, not only is it about keeping our own physical vessels, mind, body, and spirit clear, but also the impact that we have and generations have had on the land, and how to go about clearing that, because that's why we're all here too,
right,
right? To do all that.
right.
I love that. That's just really,
Well,
really
and
powerful.
and it's not that we have done all these horrible things to the earth. I mean, certainly a lot of horrible stuff has been done. But in my practice, we work with the earth, and she, like any good mother, forgives us and takes stuff on her that we dump. So, when we're letting energy go, the earth gladly, willingly accepts it, because that's her job in creation, is to accept that energy and transmute it and send it back up when it's ready. So, so to work in tandem with the earth to do this healing work is super important, I think. So, in partnership, to be in partnership. Mhm.
Well, I know,
How'd you
I
get
think so too.
How'd you get involved in geomancy? It sounds fascinating to me. I'm sorry, I could
It
talk about this
is. It
forever.
is. No, no, no. It was when actually when I was studying feng shui. So in the program that I went through was with Denise Lin,
Oh, yeah.
and so it's funny because when I finished all of my treatment, this was back when Hay House was doing their big I Can Do It conferences.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, okay, I did this, so now I'm going to an I Can Do It conference all by my little self, which again, totally out of my comfort
Oh,
zone.
God,
But,
yeah.
God said, go, girl. So I went,
Yeah.
and I was perusing through the books because I am a book fanatic. And it was crazy. This book called Feng Shui for the Soul by Denise Lin literally fell off a pile of books. It was the last copy. I looked at it and I thought, this is what I do. Because when I was doing my design work, I would go into someone's home and I could feel like what the room needed and how to make the family there feel the most comfortable in their space. So what I didn't realize, what I was actually doing energy work. And so when I studied feng shui for the soul through interior alignment, part of what we did was learning space clearing, um, and then some of that was distance or off-site, where again I could take somebody's house plan and go through room by room and clear the energy remotely. And I was looking for books on the subject and just started realizing, wait a minute, this literally goes deeper than just what's happening on their floor plan, deeper than what's in their kitchen or in their basement. And so that's when I really started studying the geomantic path. And it's fascinating where they are with this in the UK as opposed to where we are. We are like not even walking with it yet.
Wow.
And they are, I mean, it's
Wow.
incredible. So those were my teachers. I studied with Adrian Inkledon Weber and Tim Walter and oh golly, what's her name? Went right out of my head.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
anyway, I mean, they're
Yeah.
all, and we're not talking about power lines when we're talking energy lines. We're talking naturally occurring
Mm-hmm.
energy lines, and we're talking about yin water, which is very different than the rainwater from lakes, from rivers. Yin water is that deep down water that moves through the crevices, the deep, dark parts of the earth.
Wow.
And when that stops moving, it becomes stagnant. And so we can actually learn to move those water lines so that they are no longer impacting the people that live above them.
Right.
We can't move. Right. We can't move energy lines, but we can clear them through all space and time.
Right.
The water lines we can also clear, but we are able to move them energetically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
That's
fascinating
just
stuff.
incredible.
Oh.
That is incredible. Wow.
I got some reading to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh
with
my
us.
gosh. Of
Oh my
course.
goodness.
Of course.
I think that was just so incredible. And Matt, you're so right. It's so fascinating, and it just makes so much sense, especially when you move into the understanding of oneness and how intimate all of these connections are and how we're all weaved together. Everything
Yes.
in creation,
Yes. Yes.
it's just so we could really stay there and just do a whole thing about it, but we're looking forward to you starting up a workshop or training or something.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
It's incredible.
you've just given me that little kick
Good.
to do it.
Wonderful. I think, the one thing I would love to close out on, I certainly wouldn't want you to leave us today without talking about it, is not only are you just incredible, an incredible creative and herbalist and all of that, and spiritual Reiki master teacher, but you're also an author as well, too.
I am.
So I would love for you to just share a little bit about your
Sure.
book, and it's
Okay.
Enchanted Notes. Do you have a copy of it?
I do.
Okay, great.
It's right here. So it is called, and you'll probably be seeing this backwards, but it's called Notes from an Enchanted Garden. And the subtitle is Stories, Inspiration, and Wisdom from 28 Plant Allies. And so these are mostly plants that I have been in relationship with, not knowing that it was a relationship, most of my life. And I've got a chapter on, let me just go to, okay, so here's lemon balm. And
Okay.
so on the first page, it has all of these little correspondences, because sometimes people like to work with, like the planet of lemon balm, she resonates with the moon. To a lesser extent, she resonates with Jupiter. Her element is water. Her crystals associated are rhodonite, citrine, amazonite, and tiger's eye. And the goddess that she's associated with is Artemis or Diana, Demeter, and Persephone. And the wheel of the year is Litha. So in the rest of the chapter, each chapter is 6 pages. They're all formatted exactly the same way.
Oh, wow. So that was very important, I guess, obviously, to you.
Yes. And so what I have done is given people their common name as well as their botanical names. So like some of her common folk names are Sweet Balm or Thé de France or Bee Balm. And she is known for her love, success, and protection magic. And so so I'll just read you because it's so pretty.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the energy coming over, Deb. Like I want to cry. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first little paragraph of lemon balm says, if heaven has a scent, it surely must be like lemon balm. This herb, scented like sweet lemonade in the summer, makes me want to roll in it like a puppy. I harvest her by the armload 2 or 3 times in a season and could not be happier to do so. In fact, lemon balm loves being cut, as she tends to get rather thin and lanky if left to run to seed. So then I talk a little bit more about my interaction with lemon balm. I give like her traditional uses, which are medicinal generally. What are her magical uses? And the last little paragraph is what lemon balm whispers to me. Because if you study any number of authors, Scott Cunningham will say, well, use lemon balm for this type of magic. And somebody else will say another type of magic. And you're left saying, but what?
Right.
Where do
Right.
I go?
Right.
The important part is, what does each plant speak to you?
Mhm.
And so that's what I've said in here. So I'll just read you because it's really short.
Yeah.
So in my heart, lemon balm is all about happiness and joy, being uplifted just when I need it the most. She's like the friend who calls or texts at the most unexpected yet perfect time. She's refreshing in her scent and spirit. She can help shift my thinking and my momentum. She's like an herbal angel sitting on my shoulder saying, "Whew,
I
you've got
know.
this. You've
I
got
can
this,
feel
but
it.
let's try it this way." I listen because she's usually right. And then I have a drawing where somebody could maybe take this out to their garden, color it in. And then on the last page, I've got a quick little ritual at the top. And so, like with lemon balm, for sweet dreams, fill a small pouch with a mixture of lemon balm leaves and rose petals, fresh or dried. Place under your pillow at bedtime with intention. So that's the quick little ritual.
Oh
And then
my
I've got
goodness, I
a
love it.
place for, it's called Your Enchantment Notes. So people
How
might
beautiful.
like to write when lemon balm bloomed in their garden, or they might like to pick a piece and maybe do a little scrapbook. So that's why I bound it the way I did, because I want it to be part journal, part field guide, part pretty book.
Mhm.
So it's got, stories of how I came to, like Angelica. So funny with Angelica. I had no idea that it was this really big, powerful herb. And
I've
it
heard
made
of
these
it, but I don't know much
beautiful, and
about it.
it's named after the Archangel Michael. So its botanical name is Angelica archangelica, because it initially was believed to bloom around his feast day, which has since been moved to September, but used to be earlier in the summer. So the first year I harvested these beautiful leaves, and I still use it a lot, the leaves in my incense blends. But then I started diving into some research on Angelica, and I found the magic, the power is really in her roots, which I had been taking out and tossing into a compost pile, which this chubby little groundhog was diving into. So in my book, I write the funny story about how I'm now imagining this groundhog just sitting in lotus position, munching on Angelica roots.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh my
So that's
goodness.
my book. And it was
Aw,
really a labor of love. And
that's
yeah, just
wonderful.
talking about my relationship with these plants. And the next one is actually going to be about enchanted fauna. So what are
Oh,
the animals that have come into my life to bring me wisdom? And they
oh,
might not be what you
beautiful,
expect.
Deb.
They're going to be things like possum and vulture and ladybugs. And
All
yeah,
of it,
so
all of it.
mhm,
Yeah, all of it.
yep,
Deb,
yep.
that sounds just absolutely
Thank you.
enchanted. Like it's just perfect. It's just absolutely, absolutely perfect. Oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness.
Thanks.
Matt, anything in closing from you, love, that you would like
Mm,
to
No,
just
this was, I mean, it was so beautiful just to get to know you and have everybody get to know parts of you
Thank
that
you.
you don't get to interact as much, whether you're at a show or
No,
whatever. You get to know the person behind what you're offering and their story. And that's what's so beautiful about it.
thank
yeah,
you. I mean, this was so much fun for me, and I'm
we're
so
so
very
glad.
honored. And
Yeah, everything
gosh,
came through so palpably, and I
Mhm,
really hope that our viewers, I know our viewers are
mhm,
really gonna just
thank
mhm.
you.
feel the essence of everything, and
Thank you.
we
Yeah.
thank you so very much.
Thank you so
And
much, Deb.
we, yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
both.
And
Thank you.
So we know we have your website so people can know where they can connect with all of your stuff and your offerings. Tell us, is your book on Amazon as well, or do they order it
It's-
strictly through your
They
website?
can,
Or
right now they can order it just right through my website. It's in a couple of bookstores, but locally.
terrific.
One owned by Nora Roberts.
Oh my gosh, Deb, that is wonderful.
Yep, her and the Page Bookstore in Boonesboro, Maryland.
Oh my
Um,
God, congratulations.
But
Wonderful.
thanks. So yes, they can find it on my website, and I'm happy to write a little note if they want it, autographed by moi.
Personalized. Okay,
Um,
wonderful.
But yeah, and so my email is on my website. My phone number's there. So if anybody has any questions about anything, maybe they're thinking, well, I'm torn between this or that. Please reach out, and that's my job. I mean, I'm here to help uplift everyone so that we do the best we can in this life that we've been given, because we're all meant to do great things.
Absolutely.
We really are.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Deb, so much.
Thank you both.
We appreciate
very,
your
very
time.
much. Thank you.
Your time and your essence. And to all of our viewers, thank you for tuning in to our first episode.
Thank you very much.
And, thank you so much. And from our hearts to yours, much love.
All
Much
right.
love. Thank you.
Thank you.